Your idea of a perfect product.
Well, I think honestly, perfect product to me is like infinity. You can tend to it, you can limit to it, but there
But
is
if you can
not,
conjecture.
but there's nothing called reaching infinity. And I think India is going to be that digital economy that's going to be a force to reckon with if you were to look at 10 years down the lane.
Startup life is a game of constants and variables. You can only plan for so much till life throws you an in-swinging yorker. But the more you play, the better you adapt. You see through the middle overs and charge ahead in the final spell. Temperament in business, like in sports, becomes the X factor, especially when trying to bring a great idea to life. We've entered the AI age where the rules of creativity, ingenuity, and speed are being redefined. The billion-dollar question, though, is how do you develop that temperament to not limit your challenges, but challenge the limits? If you're searching for answers, we've got a game-changing conversation lined up for you. Welcome to Crafting Bharat, a startup guide powered by AWS. I'm your host, Gautam Srinivasan. Our guest today is someone who looked beyond what he saw in e-commerce space and expanded its boundaries by delivering immersive and interactive shopping experiences for consumers. Please welcome Sravanth Aluru, founder and CEO at Avataar.ai. Sravanth, great to have you on Crafting Bharat. Fantastic. We'll figure out if it's Avataar or Avatar as the Americans call it. But let's open the book in this storytelling session with Sravanth and get him to talk about the most exciting chapters in his life as a startup founder. It's time for our first segment called The Incubator. All right, Sravanth, let's get this conversation rolling by looking at your experience. You've spent a decade running Avataar.ai, along with Gaurav, of course. So let's rewind to understand how you came to focus on spatial storytelling, 3D AR, VR solutions, so to say. Because I believe in your past experience, you were heavily influenced by the Kinect, what you saw, the possibilities. So I want to know from you, how did your previous stints kind of influence you to think about this new way of enabling customer interactions? And in a sense, was there a voice in the back of your head saying, maybe I'm too early, especially from a unit economics perspective? Your thoughts?
To start with, thanks for having me, Gautam. And you're right. I mean, I probably found the passion of spatial storytelling and the power of spatial depth towards visual discovery at Microsoft, which is where I kind of started my career. I was a computer vision fanatic back then. And Kinect was this depth sensor that would sit on top of Xbox, if you remember those multiplayer tennis games, and do the skeleton tracking in some of those early AI and computer vision use cases. That's where I probably saw the power of spatial depth. And just to allude to that, we all live in a physical world which has a third dimension. Our digital experiences are flat today on these flat screens that we carry, be it mobile, be it a laptop or a tablet. And I could see that there's a huge gap, a digital divide, a digital physical divide in terms of how consumers are today consuming content and visual experiences on digital versus how physical happens. And the true power, I think, is being able to superimpose the digital and the physical reality together. Call it mixed reality.
I'm getting Matrix vibes here.
Yep, but I think that's what is the spatial computing future that today Apple's Vision Pro is trying to achieve. And I think 10 years down the lane, I do see the future to be very different to the way it is today. And that's where I'd say the passion of saying, can we create a category? Can we reimagine visual discovery in ways where the inception of Avatar started for me?
The unit economics question, your thoughts on that? Because while you saw the possibilities as a startup founder, you have to wonder about unit economics. So what was your thought around that?
Yeah, see, I think this is a category creation journey. So I did know that there's a lot of R&D that will be required to first solve the problem towards a utilitarian outcome. So we started early with a lot of pilots across US and India, worked with the clients, and our focus was predominantly to find a true impact, a utilitarian impact, leveraging AI and computer vision and the power of spatial depth that we spoke about in terms of actually driving end consumer outcomes, right? Either remove friction for them or create delight in the process of a digital shopping journey. And I think we were very lucky to have partners. So it didn't feel like we were doing nothing material. Unit economics, fortunately for us, being a deep tech company, is on the right side of the equation.
For me, it's like almost listening to a pitch deck. You're so refined in your in the way that you pitch.
I've spent 10 years, so maybe the repeat.
I know my stuff. I've done it for 10 years.
Yeah.
All right. Now, considering that vast experience, let's get into trend spotting, right? Because while the metaverse fades into the background, and I'll be honest about it, sound was exciting at start, but it's faded into the background. We are seeing Gen AI taking center stage in conversations, not on the fringe, but in terms of this wondrous aspect that comes through. And computer vision, as you've said, big hardware players are sort of backing it. Now, I want to understand from you, how has that head start that you got in this space, as you got 10 years early, enabled you to deliver more richer value to consumers across channels versus your competitors? And if you can share, sort of one or two examples to showcase with some stats as to how your value proposition has evolved.
Yeah, if I look at the end consumer impact, I would say that it's primarily about enhancing their visual discovery experience and giving them a more informed purchase decision, right? If you look at markets today, digital commerce is still 20 to 30%, depending on the geography that you're dealing with. And primarily it's that divide that I was referring to, which is causing that. With the power of this third dimension, you can actually start letting, say, a consumer drop a couch in their own living space, probably open a refrigerator that they're trying to buy while it's in their kitchen space, or even if it's just a 2D format, be able to bring storytelling at a very different level of utilitarian understanding of the product. And that's where I see the real value that we drive today. In terms of stats, I'd probably allude you to a tripartite arrangement that we did with Meta and Samsung. And we saw significant uplift, and we continue to see that across categories where the moment you bring this power to the visual discovery element, one, the consumer gets a more informed purchase decision, so they're likely making the right decision, so you're assisting them in finding the right product that goes for their context. And second, what we've also seen is the merchants, the brands that are manufacturing, get about 100% plus conversion rate uplift.
Okay.
So it's a win-win-win.
That's the win-win that you are looking for. But from a tech perspective, if I am looking at, say, a phone provider, at the end of the day, when I look at spatial storytelling, I don't know how much of a sell it is, but maybe for apparel, it's more evident in terms of its use case?
Necessarily. Let's take a phone or a television, some of those examples, right? Beyond apparel is an easy example, as you rightly said. But in cases where it's not on you, a virtual try-on, you're still probably looking for screen specs, you're probably looking for what's within, like in a watch, explode the watch, see the gears within.
Okay.
And none of that is possible today, even with a physical video shoot with the best.
Next level unboxing experience.
So you can actually take the storytelling to a level where you can create that emotional connect, thinking of what the consumer wants, right? Bring the hero narratives from a utilitarian perspective in the visual discovery while they're looking at look and fit.
Fair point. I mean, and at the end of the day, you're bringing together context, content, and convenience for the consumer. Fantastic. All right, let's talk about you broadening your focus, because from e-commerce applications, we are seeing so many possibilities unfold. Other areas like real estate, I want to see a house virtually and see how it is in a sense. Or industrial use cases, right? Digital twins are all around. If you can expand on that, and if you are exploring, especially in this digital twins aspect, whether construction sector is opening up new possibilities, or maybe even phygital experiences in car showrooms, because I remember reporting on this once and having that virtual experience, and it was truly mind-blowing at that point. I'm talking many years ago. Taking all that, again, it's like a parliamentary question. I'm adding in one more omnibus question. How do you look at taking your work with B2C clients and transposing them to B2B use cases? So a three-part question, which is first on expanding your focus, then, when B2B, B2C, that interplay, how does that work? And of course, some examples if you can share.
Yep. See, if I take a step back, our AI is primarily driving photorealism without the effort that one needed to put physically. And it applies to 2D images, 2D videos, and all the futuristic examples. So we think of pretty much every format of discovery being either time cost efficiencies for the existing formats or delight for the consumers through, say, a virtual showroom kind of an experience. Today, I would say we see application of photorealism in many industries beyond commerce, to your question, automotive, we are live today with some of the leading automotive brands in India already. And the rationale is dealerships being virtual, being able to give them a much better purchase discovery experience even before they walk into a physical dealership to touch and feel and maybe do a test drive.
Was that conversation easier, especially during the pandemic when...
Much more easier given the digital transformation need that was underlying current during that time. But I think it's also created a permanent shift in terms of consumer sophistication. And so I wouldn't say it's primarily just the COVID window. It was maybe a consumer education and an awareness step jump. And since then, we've seen the value continue.
I think somewhere it's also the momentum of use cases, right? As you go from small to big in terms of its usage, it becomes mainstream. All right.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Necessity is the mother of invention. I love quotes. All right. Let's look at your funding picture, because I think 6 rounds of funding, marquee investors, Sequoia, Tiger Global Management, you've done well for yourself. But in terms of the allocation of that funding, most of it is for research and then some for expansion. So you predominantly service the US market, but what are your expansion plans for India? And especially when we look at the next billion users who come out from this part of the world, how does it change your approach?
Yeah, I mean, we are already in India. We serve certain marketplaces here. We serve certain automotive names already. And I think India is going to be that digital economy that's going to be a force to reckon with if you were to look at 10 years down the lane. India has also kind of leapfrogged the internet era into the mobile internet era. And the kind of penetration that we're seeing today also creates a base that is significant. And so I don't think anyone can ignore India anymore. From a technology and a visual discovery impact perspective. So I am very excited about the future that India has. I think the wallet sizes and some of those are different, as you can imagine, versus the US. And so it's still a developing internet economy, I would say, when you think of commercial value. 10 years down the lane, I think the writing's on the wall. Like you probably...
We are here, make products for us. That's going to be the cry, war cry from the Indian customer. All right. Now, my experience with AR so far has been using that IKEA app, using my phone to see, how does this sofa look here? That's the mobile phone. And I remember trying on eyeglass frames from Lenskart, but that required a laptop and a webcam. 2 different interfaces. In terms of the next level of experience, because this is a question which has been debated a lot. What's that killer app experience in terms of whether it's hardware or whether you innovate in something on that front? What is that truly moonshot experience that you are looking for? Because you have a moonshot factory called Avataar Reality Labs. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the physical and the digital reality will not be distinguishable anymore. If you were to fast forward, say 5 years from now, we are seeing that already in these pilot R&D POCs that we're doing internally in the Avataar Reality Labs that you referred to. But the kind of photorealism and the way that we're able to blend a physical and a digital reality today with, say, a device like a Quest 2, which Meta has, or a device like Vision Pro that Apple has, I think is going to give superhuman capabilities across everything digital, starting from communications to even just information consumption to productivity in various different contexts, right? And it's like the mobile phone revolution. Once you have knowledge in your fingertips and the ability to Google wherever you are, whenever you want to, there is early adoption and then a followership that follows, right? I think we will see early adoption in the next 3 years with some of these devices. You will see this.
Looking at the cost, I think it's the early adopters who are going to subsidize it for the rest of us.
Yeah, although Meta is priced quite well, Quest 2. So I think there is an Android equivalent already in place, unlike back in the day when mobile was there. There are both sides of the equation today. And I think there'll be early adoption. You will see this in physical controlled environments. Think of walking into a store, but not being limited to the shelf inventory, but bring the entire digital inventory in life size through these devices onto the floor. You like the washing machine, but it's not perfect. You say, show me all similar products that you have. Look at them life size right next to it. See the features, open it up, go inside, and then make a digital purchase instead of making a physical purchase, right?
I'm wondering how that next level shopping experience is going to be, because I know some friends who are very choosy, right? So which means, bhaiya ye nahi wo batana, ye nahi wo batana. If that's going to be a virtual experience where that keeps scrolling, it's going to be a doom scrolling of the next level when it comes to an e-commerce experience.
Yeah, but I think that's where AI is going to play a role. each consumer, and this is the convergence of AI and computer vision solving for the visual discovery gap, AI is going to solve for context. And personalization. It'll understand you better than perhaps you, because your subconscious mind takes 95% of your decisions, and the science behind it, right? And AI has the ability to now understand your purchase decisions and perhaps decipher what you want better than your conscious brain.
You don't want it right now, but here it is. You will want it later. That's how ads are going to sound. All right.
Probably. Or not even saying it, right? Just driving that impulse within you.
Finesse.
Impulse to the purchase intent.
I love how he says all this with an ASMR voice. It's quite a stark contrast to what you hear from me, but I think that's the message. You calmly, coolly listen to the message of growth and, of course, running a next-gen startup. All right, let's wrap up the incubator with the last question to you. AWS serves as the foundation for Avataar's AR solutions. Additionally, AWS's Gen AI tools, they're helping you craft personalized dynamic content, as you've just spoken about. Could you expand on this partnership with AWS, and more importantly, how is it helping you to scale and innovate?
We're very proud partners of AWS, and they're a phenomenal partner to have with their distribution footprint, equally their tech capabilities that are very complementary to what we're doing. See, we are focused on a very clear AI computer vision convergence era. Having said that, AWS gives us a lot more capabilities to connect various different dots that either remove friction or say create delight, either for our clients or the end consumers. And that's where I see the partnership to be very complementary, a strong win-win for both entities. And you're right, we are using AWS predominantly today for our cloud, as well as technical collaboration, innovation, being able to leverage the innovation their research labs does, and mix and match with us to drive end consumer and end client outcomes, ROI or delight, as I said. And it's been phenomenal. I mean, I can only be thankful and grateful to.
All right, hashtag phenomenal. But connecting the dots to grow and innovate, that's the message coming out. Well, that's your 15-minute story of running a business by bringing the future into the present so you can do something about it right now. How about we fast forward to some quick takes on converting 2D problems into 3D solutions? Let's put our pedal to the metal for our next segment titled The Accelerator. All right, I read that you love to compose music and play guitar. I'm already getting rock-on vibes from you. So, your thoughts on that? And also this importance of extracurricular activities, especially for founders, because they're so deep into what they do. Sometimes you just need to have a bird's eye view, step out of the noise.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, dealing with ambiguity is probably a skill that founders really need to exercise. And the ability to then directionally align towards a constructive direction that...
My God, even this sounds like a PowerPoint pitch from you.
Gets out of ambiguity. Thanks. I'll take that as a compliment.
All right.
Having said that, I do think that music has been my way to just check out sometimes and being able to get out of the well that you are in and be able to get perspectives around what you want to do. And it's usually the way I get out of problem solving, take a break, come back, and sometimes you just see the problem in a very different way when you have that little bit of a context switch. And that I love music from heart, and so there's maybe a personal angle to that phenomenon.
Sounds like a movie line. You make the music, I'll provide the perspective. All right, your idea of a perfect product.
Well, I think honestly, perfect product to me is like infinity. You can tend to it, you can limit to it, but
conjecture.
But there's nothing called reaching infinity. Similarly, I don't think there's a perfect product that exists in the world.
That sounds like a very Deepak Chopra line, right? Life is like infinity.
Yeah,
if I had to ask you, saying, give me some idea of, in your vision, what a perfect product would look like. Specifics.
I think something that's continuously improving with very clear utilitarian purpose of either removing existing friction today or driving value in terms of delight of doing things that you couldn't do yesterday, right? And both are equally valuable in my view from a utilitarian context. And a perfect product, while I wouldn't call it perfect, a good product leading to a perfect product is something that's using users and a continuous information improvement loop, if you will, a feedback loop, that the users are driving the product rather than a team. And the team is just a means of achieving that outcome of the user feedback, if you will.
All right. They say perfect is the enemy of the good. So your message is focus on the good. The product itself will
Yeah, I mean, the
become
world
perfect
around
over
us is
time.
imperfect. So
Ouch.
there's there's something for
I think it's
us.
time to move on to our next question. All right, you're a IIT Bombay, Wharton alum, so break some myths for us about the Ivy Leagues. We've got a lot of potential startup founders listening in. Break some of the myths.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think it's very important to be in the present, and the power of your attention, which is driven by your motivation, coupled with your skills, which come from continuous learning through the past, is the power. So it's probably just half of the equation. Half of the equation is how driven you are, how motivated you are today. So I wouldn't say Ivy League or IIT Bombay, for example. These are great places. I've learned I should give them due credit for shaping me, if you will, in the way I am today. But having said that, I think half of what I'm doing today is the motivation I have in the present moment, not something I've done in the past. So overhyping the past is probably not the right answer. Equally, it exposes you to great people around you, to great professors, great innovation and research. So the amount of learning, the exposure that you get is super valuable. So I see both sides to the coin, if you will.
That's heavy, man. I actually am reminded of this line from Kung Fu Panda where Oogway says, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift because it's the present. Very heavy lines. All right. Next question. How challenging was it to attract the right talent? Because this is something which a lot of startup founders, especially in these next gen use cases, face because the right talent is expensive. So, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, expensive is clearly a big part. So capital is a big enabler, I must confess. And we've been kindly supported by Sequoia, Tiger at the right moments. But beyond that, I do think that people want a purpose. They want to be part of a journey that's value creation from nothing. And if you can actually spin the ability for people, because it's a collective journey, right? One founder cannot achieve anything by himself. It's a collective team that achieves it. And if you could start sharing that opportunity and empowering people to be playing that role, I think it's far easier problem statement than it seems otherwise.
I imagine there's a coffee table mug somewhere in your office with the message teamwork makes the dream work.
Yep, it says none of us are as powerful as all of us.
Oh, that's even better. I think I'll steal that for my next Instagram reel. All right, coming to the final question. Now, everyone wants to scale quickly. But how about this alternate idea of stay small, learn that ecosystem, learn the challenges, and learn how you grow as a business? Then you scale and innovate. What's your view on that approach?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of instant gratification that's creeped into the startup philosophies. I'm not too sure if that's the right approach. I think what's important, and I'm not saying that means spend 10 years. What I mean is you really need to find a true value prop that's sustainable, makes every stakeholder in the chain win, and then therefore collaborate to make it a reality that scales up. If you rush that process before this moment happens, I think it's honestly a little bit more hype than reality because it's very tough to sustain it. And the moment you hit that, not scaling up fast is just not sensible, right? It's not the right outcome. So I think the first moment before scale is to reach a point where you make every stakeholder in that process win, and thereafter things are obviously around scale, and you should probably scale it as fast as you can because that's collective success and a win-win for everyone involved.
All right, that's your cool and calming perspective on separating hype from reality. That's your 5-minute script of life in the fast lane when running a startup right here on Crafting Bharat, a startup guide with Sravanth Aluru. Let's move on to the next chapter on this talk where Sravanth will now be answering a few questions asked by our audience. It's time for our final segment called The Advisor. Sravanth, our first question comes from Mitesh from Hame Angels. Mitesh asks, what has been the most rewarding experience since you started your company?
I think it's a continuous learning for me myself as well as people that are Avatarians making Avatar together. I think actually money is probably loses its significance after a point.
Okay.
But the purpose behind is something that humans need to find satisfaction. And the purpose I've found, at least personally in this journey, is the ability to see others grow I think I've grown every day, making mistakes, learning from it, not repeating the mistakes again. And that journey has been very satisfying, I would say. The other outcomes, money, fame, some of those things are great to have, I must confess. Having said that, they're not sustainable in my view in terms of contentment. There's temporary happinesses.
Pushing you forward.
They veer off in a week and you're on to the next milestone. Learning, however, is continuous. It never stops. And just realizing that you're improving, polishing yourself is enough of a purpose to be satisfied with.
If I had some music in the studio, I would have played Life is a Highway.
Yep.
But hashtag purpose, that's the real stuff. And answer to our audience question number 1 onwards to our second question. This comes from Gunjan from Jito Angel Network. Gunjan asks, can you talk about your personal experience where your resilience and persistence helped you achieve success as an entrepreneur? Picturize virtually one challenge and that payoff when you found a solution to that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, COVID, I must say, not just for me, but maybe every entrepreneur who was early stage back then, was like an uncontrollable unknown. And it was certainly a big challenge. We had to grow. We couldn't keep our offices open. So the entire hiring was pretty much remote. That induced a lot of challenges in terms of onboarding, training. It also created a lot of macroeconomic confusion. I think the moment when COVID happened was literally 3-4 months before we went for Series A. And yep, so we literally started
Exciting
our process
times.
right after the COVID shutdown, and it was very interesting, a place where I could have probably given up thinking, it's not practical. There were obviously naysayers everywhere around, and just having the day, just to be able to dare to dream and to just let that negativity around you not affect your action every step of that way is probably the learning I got out of it. Call it resilience, call it whatever you want to call it, but I think that was the most challenging moment of my entrepreneurial journey.
That's a very great Gatsby wipe, and we beat on boat against the current.
Yep, and we were fortunate to have Sequoia join, so can't complain because the outcome ended up being much better than I probably thought.
So your message to your investors, thank you for the money.
Yeah.
All right, our third and final question comes from Arjun Nijhavan, an angel investor, and he inquires, what advice would you give to founders who are looking to enter niche or emerging markets?
I think I would say have a deeper purpose beyond a vision and a mission statement, because I think it is iterative. On day one, no founder probably knows what's going to work. There's a philosophy, there's a pillar stone of making decisions, there are first principles which are important, and together is what I call as purpose. And be fungible with vision and mission statements. Don't think that on day one you know everything. It's a discovery process. Have that passion and let the journey teach you on the way, and be open-minded to learn and improve towards that vision and mission statement.
All right. Boiling it down to go with the flow. That's the message. Well, we have run out of time, unfortunately, on this episode of Crafting Bharat, a startup guide powered by AWS. This podcast is an initiative of NewsReach. Sravanth, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us your story of running a truly next-gen enterprise.
Pleasure talking to you, Gautam, and thanks to the audience.
Thank you so much. And if you want to take a look at the possibilities that can be unlocked with spatial storytelling for your business and its products, do visit the Avataar.ai website. A big thank you, though, to our audience for tuning in. Do like, share, and subscribe to our channel to build your startup quotient. Till next time, this is your host, Gautam Srinivasan, signing off. Crafting Bharat, a startup guide powered by AWS, is an initiative of NewsReach in association with VC Circle, produced by HT Smartcast. The director and executive producer of this show is Deepthi Ahuja. The assistant producer is Veda Mohan. The video editor on this show is Puljit Singh. And the audio editor is Amrinder Singh.